On the morning of May 27, 1997, in the city of Kobe, Japan, a school janitor noticed suspicious black objects scattered on the way to school. The objects were scattered far from the main entrance of the school. When the janitor approached, he saw that they were mutilated animal bodies wrapped in cellophane bags. Frightened and disturbed by what he had seen, the school janitor continued on his way. As he approached the main entrance of the school, he noticed another bag. With trembling hands, he opened the plastic and looked inside to see what was there. He realized that it was nothing, just the mutilated body of an animal. In a cellophane bag lay the severed head of a teenage boy, his eyes gouged out, and the Latin letter X carved into his face. The corpse had a crumpled piece of paper stuffed in its mouth. It was a mocking letter written in red ink with the following message: "This is the beginning of the game. Police, stop me if you can." At the end of the letter was the criminal's pseudonym, Sakakibara Seito, written using kanji characters that mean Devil's Holy Rose. The residents of Kobe were still recovering from the shock of the devastating earthquake that had claimed many lives when a new wave of terror struck. An unknown madman attacked two local schoolgirls as they were walking home from school, striking them on the back of the head with a hammer. The criminal managed to escape before anyone could see him. Fortunately, despite severe head injuries, both girls recovered fully. However, as it turned out, this was not the only incident. On March 16th, there were more attacks on teenagers, this time on 10-year-old Ayaki Yamashita and 9-year-old Kazumi Shika. Ayaki was hit in the head from behind with a hammer, while Kazumi, who was attacked just 10 minutes later, was stabbed in the stomach. Ayaki suffered brain damage and died a week after the attack. The second victim, Kazumi, miraculously survived. The wound was just a few millimeters away from the main artery in his spine. Unlike other victims, Kazumi was able to see the attacker's face and provided information about it to the investigation. Investigators suspected that the same person did all 4 attacks. The attacker left his calling card at each scene, mutilated corpses of birds and animals. In one place, a headless pigeon was found, and in another, a killed and dismembered squirrel. 2 months had passed since the last attack by the unknown maniac, yet law enforcement still had not apprehended a suspect. Even though the maniac was still free, the children's parents and teachers were relatively calm, believing that the maniac had gotten tired of it all or had realized what a terrible thing he was getting into and had stopped it all. But their sense of calm proved to be short-lived. On May 24th, a local 11-year-old boy, Junhase, went missing. The people of Kobe were gripped by fear. Everyone thought that the reason for the child's disappearance was the same maniac. 3 days after June Hayes' disappearance, a school janitor found June Hayes' severed head wrapped in cellophane near the school's main entrance. The boy's headless body was found west of the school on a hill known as Water Reservoir Mountain. The investigation determined that the boy's head had been cut off with a handmade saw and then mutilated with the same tool. There were no eyewitnesses to this gruesome murder. However, newspapers and television channels suggested that the perpetrator was probably a 30 to 40-year-old man with firm physical characteristics. A week and a half after June's murder, a brown envelope arrived at the editorial office of one of the largest city newspapers, Kobe Shimbun. It had no return address and contained a 3-page letter written by the maniac claiming that he was the crown of the case. The letter read, "I am risking my life for this game. If I am caught, I will most likely be hanged. The police should be more eager to catch me. When I commit murder, only then will I be free from constant hatred and find peace and be cured of other pains." The maniac wrote that he would attack schools out of hatred for the Japanese education system, which he said had made him oppressed, isolated, and lonely. The letter was again written under the name Sakakibara Seito. Widespread panic and confusion swept through the Japanese media, which mistakenly published the maniac's name as Onibara Demon's Rose. This mistake cost the journalists dearly, as they soon received a new letter from the maniac. The maniac wrote in the threatening letter, "If you spell my name wrong again and ruin my mood, I will destroy 3 vegetables a week. If you think I only have eyes for children, you are very mistaken." By vegetable, he meant any member of society. That is, he said he would kill 3 random people a week if someone spelled his name name wrong. As a result of the investigative actions carried out and with the help of the testimony of the surviving victim, Kazumi, the investigators focused their attention on a young man who had previously been noticed for torturing and killing animals. They had sufficient evidence to accuse him, and on June 28th, 1 month after Juni's body was found near the school gate, the suspect was arrested. When it became known that the arrested person was a 14-year-old boy, the public was shocked and couldn't believe that such a young teenager could be a maniacal killer. Due to Japan's strict privacy laws, the suspect's name remained unknown for decades, and he was simply referred to in the media as the boy. However, very recently, his real name was revealed, Shinichiro Azuma. Azuma told police that he and Junhas went to the same school where the boy's head was found. Azuma told police how Jun had lured him to a mountain on May 24th. He said he would show him a giant turtle that lived near a water tank. After climbing the mountain, Azuma strangled Jun and then hid his body under the floor of a nearby hut. The next day, he returned with a homemade saw and a black garbage bag. He cut off Jun's head and drank her blood. He claimed that this ritual had cleansed his sinful soul. Then he gouged out the child's eyes, removed the head, and left it at the school's main entrance. When asked why he took the head to the school entrance, he answered that there were two reasons. One was that no one would suspect him if he left the head at his own school's entrance, and the second was that it was an act of revenge against the school that had made him such a failure and warped his soul. During the interrogation, Azuma not only confessed to Jun's murder, but also stated that he was the one who attacked 4 school students earlier that same year, including Ayaki Yamashi, who died from the injuries sustained. Azuma wrote about Ayaki in his diary, "Today I conducted a sacred experiment to prove how fragile a person is. I raised a hammer, and when the girl turned towards me, I struck her several times on the head." When Ayaki died on March 2nd from the injuries sustained, Azuma wrote again in his diary, "This morning, the handwriting in the diary exactly matched the handwriting of the letters sent to the editorial office. As a result, Shinichiro Azuma was found guilty of the murders of Ayaki and Jun Hase. He was sentenced to imprisonment and placed in a juvenile correctional facility. His lawyers tried to prove that he was being accused of a crime he did not commit. Japan has a high conviction rate of 99.8% and is often criticized for arresting innocent people based on their coerced confessions. Azuma's lawyers argued that the perpetrator was left-handed, while Azuma was right-handed, and that the person who wrote the letters to the media used a lot of complex speech forms and complex hieroglyphs, indicating that he was an intellectually highly developed person. According to them, Azuma, who was at best an average student, was not intelligent enough to write such letters. Furthermore, regarding the confession he had written with his own hand, Azuma claimed that he confessed to acts that were impossible for a 14-year-old to commit. Azuma's lawyers' statements compelled Azuma's mother to visit him in prison and ask him face-to-face whether he was truly guilty of the crimes he was convicted of, to which Azuma calmly replied, "Yes, it was so." On March 11, 2004, less than 7 years after his imprisonment, 20-year-old Azuma was released from prison. After his release, he published a book titled Zeke's Memories of the 97-Year Murders. Despite public outrage over his attempt to profit from his horrific crimes and the suffering of the victims' families, this did not prevent the book from becoming a #1 bestseller in Japan, and Azuma became wealthy. After all this, Azuma sent letters of apology to the families of his victims and books with Sakita's signature. Azuma became one of the richest people in Japan thanks to his memoirs. The public was outraged and called on the Japanese authorities to ban the publication of such books. Psychologists suggested that Azuma was a narcissistic psychopath. This incident led the Japanese government to lower the age of criminal responsibility from 16 to 14. The most terrible thing about this story is that neither the parents nor Japanese society was able to prevent this tragedy, even though it could have been prevented.